Well, AOC, and let me know if you believe this, is saying that MAGA Republicans are coming up to her and say, man, I was wrong about Trump. I'm with socialism now. Do you buy that?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd like to see some of the people who actually said that to AOC and check their ballots and see if they actually voted for President Trump, because I can assure you MAGA Republicans oppose everything that AOC and the modern day Communist Democrat Party stands for. Mass migration and open borders like we saw under the Biden.
AOC now claims a surge of MAGA voters are regretfully dropping Trump, walking away from him, and preparing to back Democrats, fully aligned with the DNC in 2028.
Men and women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue, taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years.
Karoline Leavitt shuts it down completely. She says AOC is flat out wrong and just delivered one of the sharpest clapbacks you'll see all year.
I fully welcome Trump voters into our coalition. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but just hear me out. I cannot tell you, it just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you how many times someone has pulled me aside and said either I was once a big Trump voter and a Trump supporter, but then I started to kind of expand my world and where I got information, and now I've learned and now I've changed and I'm with you.
That was AOC's takeaway when she took to social media. In her version, she says many Trump supporters back him for a straightforward reason. They spend hours watching Fox News, absorb its talking points, and fail to think for themselves. According to her, their support has nothing to do with financial strain under Biden, rising food prices, high gas costs, or unaffordable rent. She rejects all that. She also dismisses the idea that Trump's support grew in response to what she calls woke policies from the Biden administration that many Americans see as out of touch. For AOC, it's simply media-driven brainwashing. But her confident explanation didn't go unchallenged. Karoline Leavitt heard AOC's comments and refused to let them go unopposed. What followed was a pointed rebuttal that flipped AOC's narrative and revealed the arrogance behind it.
And President Trump and Republicans shellacked Chuck Schumer and the entire Democrat Party. After 43 days of Chuck standing out there trying to bravely hold the country hostage and inflict massive pain on the American public, Chuck got absolutely nothing. And now the knives are out for him. As you can see, Jesse, as you just perfectly laid out in your monologue, the Democrat Party is in complete disarray. And the truth is, they have been for 10 years since President Trump came on the political.
And that point is difficult to deny. Since Trump announced his bid for the presidency again, the DNC has appeared unstable. What followed felt like constant reaction rather than strategy, with confusion replacing coherent planning. This helps explain the barrage of accusations against him and the headline-grabbing investigations and court cases that promised big revelations but delivered little. It also explains the years-consuming Russia collusion story that many Republicans argue never matched the Democrats' initial claims. It explains the stream of insults and dismissive labels as if ridicule could take the place of substantive argument. Despite all this, scandals, trials, and nonstop media coverage, nothing has stuck. Time and again, these attacks haven't fractured Trump's support or slowed his progress. In fact, they appear to have bolstered him and revealed how rattled his critics have become.
They don't stand for anything good. They just stand for Donald Trump is bad. That's the only thing that unifies their party. And now you see how far they are moving to the left. They ran Senator Gillibrand and Senator Manchin out of town. Now they're running Chucky Schumer out of town. It's too bad he turned into a Palestinian. He did it for nothing, like President Trump says, because his own party is turning against him. And the Democrat Party is truly becoming a full-blown communist party.
Karoline Leavitt directly challenges Democratic leaders, asserting they've lost touch with their own supporters. She argues that the party has shifted so far left that long-serving figures like Chuck Schumer now seem out of step with the activists they once led. In her view, the most extreme elements have taken control. Instead of leadership guiding priorities, it's the loudest, most radical voices online and in protests setting the agenda. Leavitt claims Democratic officials are sidelined when they aren't perceived as sufficiently progressive by their own base. One misstep or moderate comment and they're immediately branded sellouts or traitors. She sees this internal conflict as a party eating itself, obsessed with purity tests instead of effective governance. And as Democrats turn on one another, she says voters are noticing. Many are quietly disengaging from a party that now seems to lack a clear identity.
In women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue, taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years. MAGA Republicans know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President.
Karoline meticulously dismantles AOC's claim that MAGA supporters secretly regret backing Trump. She doesn't just dismiss it, she demands actual evidence, names, numbers, and concrete proof, and insists none of it has been provided. Rather than relying on vague anecdotes or social media impressions, Karoline explains why millions backed Trump initially. It wasn't random. It was a reaction to what many saw as aggressive woke agendas from the DNC that left everyday voters frustrated. Many rejected men competing in women's sports, had reservations about medical transitions for minors, and were uneasy with the party's drift toward open socialism. She makes it clear that ignoring these concerns doesn't make them disappear. It pushes more voters away. And if Democrats persist on this course, she warns the consequences could be severe.
Know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President Trump. And a Democrat that you had in your monologue actually was right about one thing. I don't know his name, but I give him credit for his statement where he said that the Republican Party under President Trump is the party of the working man and woman. And because of President Trump's pro-growth, America First policies, he has spoken directly to the hearts of the forgotten men and women across this country, and that's who the Republican Party is.
Indeed, Leavitt hits the mark, and this is a reality Democrats still fail to address. Trump's victories didn't stem from chasing approval on Twitter or praise from elites. He spoke directly to middle America, to swing voters, and to people who felt overlooked, patronized, and squeezed financially. He connected with working-class frustrations, jobs, prices, safety, and stability, using language they understood. Meanwhile, the DNC and leaders like Harris focused almost exclusively on coastal elites, corporate interests, and the loudest woke voices online. Instead of addressing everyday concerns at the kitchen table, voters were met with lectures, labels, and moralizing rhetoric. That disconnect mattered. When ordinary Americans felt dismissed or mocked, Trump made them feel acknowledged, even if they didn't agree with him on every issue. In the end, elections are won by reaching real people with real problems, not by virtue signaling or polished scripts. That's where Trump succeeded and where the DNC faltered.
Well, we'll have to see, and I'm very curious. I'll have to find out from our great Attorney General Pam Bondi if the Trump DOJ is continuing this investigation that the Biden DOJ launched. Jesse, it's a good question, and we will get on that. But as for Gavin Newsom, I was not surprised to see him in Brazil, traveling the world, probably on the taxpayer dime, talking about climate change when his state, California, has some of the highest energy costs in the entire country.
Karoline also criticizes Gavin Newsom, calling out what she sees as blatant political hypocrisy. She accuses Newsom of lecturing endlessly about climate change while presiding over some of the highest energy costs in the nation. Karoline argues it's easy to preach from a stage, but ordinary families are left dealing with crushing electricity and fuel bills that make daily life harder. She contends that Newsom's green agenda may sound noble in theory, but in practice, it burdens working-class Californians who can't afford solar panels, electric cars, or pricey alternatives. In her view, this isn't a rejection of environmental responsibility. It's a rejection of leaders who place ideology above affordability and simple common sense.
gasoline prices in the entire country, despite President Trump's efforts. And they are working to bring down oil and gas prices in this country, to drill, baby, drill, to unleash American energy dominance. Gavin has done so much damage to his state with the Green New scam and with this utopian pursuit of climate change that is just so false. It's built on a fallacy that he has run up energy costs in his state that people are fleeing.
Karoline is right, and the evidence is hard to ignore. More families and businesses are leaving California, frustrated by steep taxes, excessive regulation, and constant bureaucracy. For small businesses, every day feels like an uphill battle with permits, compliance costs, and towering tax bills, until the math simply doesn't add up. Meanwhile, Newsom, in Karoline's view, appears unmoved. Instead of easing the burden or reconsidering policy, he doubles down, tightening restrictions in pursuit of ambitious goals and political optics. The result is predictable. Companies relocate to states with lower taxes, fewer hurdles, and friendlier business environments. Karoline calls it a leadership failure. Jobs disappear, communities struggle, and tax revenues shrink. Yet California's leaders act perpetually surprised by outcomes anyone paying attention could foresee. At some point, she insists, denial stops being leadership and starts looking like indifference.
So maybe he should leave Brazil and stop talking about this issue that is hurting his own people and get back to governing what was once a beautiful state of California that people are fleeing en masse because of his horrific energy and economic policies that have made the cost of living in California completely out of control.
Yeah, the climate scam's kind of like DEI. It's dead, and it's never coming back.
Karoline essentially voices what many Californians already feel. Newsom needs to stop chasing headlines and focus on what actually matters to his constituents. That means tackling the crushing cost of living that forces families into impossible decisions each month. It means trimming the bloated bureaucracy that slows progress, raises costs, and suffocates small businesses before they can thrive. It means expanding reliable energy production instead of championing policies that make power more expensive and less dependable. Above all, it means cutting taxes that continue to drive residents and employers out of the state. Karoline's message is simple. Leadership isn't about grand speeches or national posturing. It's about making life more affordable and sustainable for everyday people. Until Newsom realigns his priorities with those essentials, the exodus will continue, and Californians will keep paying the price for political stubbornness. Stepping back, the pattern is clear. Democrats like AOC and Newsom keep offering excuses, slogans, and narratives, while voters demand tangible results. Karoline Leavitt cuts through the noise. People didn't support Trump because of Fox News or misinformation. They did it because life became tougher and more expensive. The DNC's focus on woke purity tests, higher taxes, and ideological crusades left working Americans behind. Rather than listening, party leaders double down and act surprised when voters walk away. Until Democrats confront why people are frustrated, no amount of spin will stop the political backlash already underway.